Michelle Beckham-Corbin, president of C3 Creating Connections Consulting, a social media marketing strategy firm.
And I'm Mark Macomber, president of Macomber Creations.
Welcome to this episode of our social media marketing show.
Digitally speaking, and Happy New Year.
And if you are just finding our show for the first time, I want to tell you that we have many episodes on YouTube that also can be found on actv.org's website for viewing. Last time Mark and I were together, we spent some time talking about Mark's project, the Humanity Machine. So Mark, why don't you share with the audience just a little bit about the program that your big endeavor?
Thank you. Well, the Humanity Machine is a really exciting concept. It is a multimedia production, a harmonic concordance of art and music, and it's kind of a little bit of a different approach to the entertainment industry, if you will. It took place in a theater, and it was a written soundtrack and script. So very exciting project in short, and a lot to it, a lot of things. So as we related it to a startup business, how to get a business, whether it was something in the entertainment industry or something in the service industry, a lot of the mechanics of those things are very similar, whether it is, like I said, entertainment or business. So a lot of the things that we've explored here on this show are trying to help entrepreneurs figure out how to navigate through this great, crazy social media world and pick and choose the best tools that are right for them. So we have a really hot topic today.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about Twitter. And Twitter is a social media platform that anybody can use. And as we've mentioned before when we've talked about strategy, and most recently when we were talking about your endeavor, a business needs to strategically look at all social media tools to determine if it's something that is going to work for their business. But we thought to kind of get things started that we would kind of dedicate this show as a primer on Twitter. So for those of you who may have heard of Twitter but not necessarily dabbled in Twitter, we're going to tell you a little bit about how it works.
Well, Twitter's really exciting, and a lot of people have hopped all over Twitter. A lot of professionals have hopped all over Twitter, and it is a really instantaneous way to get response. Probably faster than Facebook, faster than LinkedIn, because it's really in real time. So it could be an amazing tool used in the proper way for any specific business.
Right, and let's go back just a little bit, Mark, just for those in the audience that may not know. Twitter is actually considered a micro-blogging platform, and it's limited to 140 characters. And so initially, people who are new to Twitter may think, wow, what could you possibly say in 140 characters, right?
Right.
But I think people have become very creative with getting kind of to the point, cutting to the chase with what they want to say. And the beauty of Twitter is that you can embed a hyperlink into your tweets. So you could have your statement linked to a website, a video, a song, anything that you want. And you could use a URL shortener, of which there are now just embedded within Twitter. But the URL shortener will take that long website address and shrink it down to maybe 8 or 9 characters. So you're really not giving up very much of your 140 character real estate. So so that is kind of that extra little piece that helps to make Twitter even that more impactful, because you can add content to your statement.
So like having a tagline or something that really just gets people's attention, even less than to the 2-minute elevator speech that we're used to, just really succinctly getting to the point. And if people really have interest, then they can explore by hitting on the link that would take them elsewhere to your website or to someplace where you can elaborate on the point. So I think it's good for verbose people like me who sometimes go on and on and on about things.
Cut you off.
Cut you off. You get 140 characters, ladies and gentlemen. You either better abbreviate really well, and hopefully people still understand what you're talking about, or you just get to the point and you use it to get short little snippets, taglines, messages across.
Right, and you know, Mark, we've talked before on this show about how important visual images have become just in the way we communicate. So in 2013, Twitter made a really great move. As I mentioned before, we could could always add links, right, to videos, pictures, websites, etc. Now, if you add a photo link, the photo will actually appear within Twitter. So that you can actually see that when you're viewing the tweet. And that's great because that just adds pop and power and
the visual interest, which is a picture's worth 1,000 words or 2,000 words or 140 characters for that matter.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Very, very powerful. No matter how you're marking it.
Yeah.
So those, so that's the beauty of the power of Twitter. But so it's 140 characters. But there still is a little bit of a language to talk about. And I know you've dabbled with Twitter a little bit.
Sure.
And when you first got on Twitter, do you recall what perhaps one of the first symbols that you might have noticed and wondered?
Well, I mean, the whole thing, the hashtag thing and the @ sign and their symbols for obviously what you're trying to do. But one of the interesting things to me was the hieroglyphics of figuring out what all the hashtags were. And then I realized you don't really have to figure out what they are. They just are linking you to.
They just are.
They just are. And once you start using it, it just happens. But the thing that's really cool about it, you have access to all these. It's not like it's not always just a one-on-one. You can use it that way. But where it really has power is in the ability to connect to all these other groups. It's much like having I likened it to email, and that would probably be a good correlation to say how would you liken the difference between Twitter and just emailing somebody a message? Other than the fact that we're getting it so instantaneously. We get emails on our phones instantaneously, but
that is a great question and a great point of distinction that might help people who are unfamiliar with Twitter. So Mark's question is basically kind of what is the difference between sending an email to someone and using Twitter? Now, when you're sending an email, most likely it's one-on-one, although we can do group emails, right? We can take people that we have their email addresses for and include them in a message that we're sending out to a group. On Twitter, when you send a message out, it's really going out to the world. And when you use a hashtag, and to back up, a hashtag is the pound symbol. So you use the pound symbol at the start of whatever your tag is going to be. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a couple of letters that signify something. I've noticed recently that a lot of the television shows on in the evenings will have up in the upper left-hand corner a hashtag for the show. Maybe a character's name, and the TV shows are encouraging people to be on Twitter and to tweet their comments about the show as they're viewing using that hashtag. So when one uses a hashtag for Twitter, it's almost like cataloging. So let's say there was the hashtag that the studio was going to use, let's say hashtag ACTV. Anybody in the area that was talking about our show or one of the other wonderful shows that ACTV produces could have the hashtag ACTV somewhere in their tweet. And if you or I or someone else would like to do even a Google search on that hashtag, we would pull up all of the conversations, all of the tweets, statements that were made using that hashtag. And where this has been really helpful for me has been in attending meetings. A lot of times conferences or meetings will designate a hashtag for the event, and then as attendees are participating and listening to speakers, etc., rather than taking notes, we can, using the hashtag, kind of tweet what our notes are, and then other people will have the benefit of reading what we said, whether they're there but in another another breakout session, or whether they're halfway around the world and just want to know what was being discussed at the XYZ conference. So kind of a major point of distinction there. Just knowing that Twitter is completely public. Now, there is a way for Twitter to be private, and we call that using a direct message. And so, you can send a message, like I could send a message to you kind of for your eyes only, but what I like to tell my clients, and especially the younger clients that I'm working with, nothing is truly private anymore, right? There's
Right.
always copying and
Yeah.
pasting and cutting and getting that piece of information someplace else. But there is a way to do direct messages. And LinkedIn, I've got LinkedIn on the brain. Twitter actually made a change within the last couple of months so that anyone can send a direct message. It used to be that we needed to have a mutual relationship, meaning I needed to follow you and you needed to follow me in order for either of us to send a direct message. So, for example, I used to say, I could follow, I don't know, I'll say Oprah Winfrey. Let's say I was a fan of the Oprah Winfrey Show and I wanted to follow her Twitter account. I certainly could follow at Oprah Winfrey. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to follow me back. I mean, I just don't have any celebrity clout that she would want to follow me back. I don't know. But in any event, there's not that two-way situation. So I would not be able to send her a direct message unless we were connected in the old days. Now, the new days, that's a whole different story. So you can send direct messages.
Well, that is interesting because now you have more access to. And that's kind of what would be interesting, I guess, if I would liken it to something, you liken it to some of the Facebook security settings where only certain friends can see this. You can pick your privacy settings as to where or whatever this would be. But with Twitter, as like you say, you can send a private message, but for the most part, it is generally a huge network, and a lot of people can see a lot of different things. So. There's another interesting thing that happens in Twitter is that you can connect. A lot of people, when they're sending tweets, will have 10, 15, these lengthy hashtag. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and give our viewing audience a little key insight as to what that is? And why that is.
Are you talking about the people that will use multiple hashtags in the same tweet?
Sometimes you say 10, 15 hashtags on a tweet. They go on. It looks like one big website address that goes on hashtag this, hashtag that.
Sure. And when we're talking about these hashtags and words, what we're really talking about are keywords, search engine optimized words. And so imagine, if you're a business or a product and you really want to catch the attention of someone on Twitter, you're going to include a couple of keywords in that tweet. The reality is there are too many people on Twitter and the conversations are happening too quickly for anyone to really follow it at one time. As a matter of fact, I've got a statistic. For 2013, Twitter added, let me just make sure I'm right on this number. I want to say 30 million. Just sounds so astronomical. Yeah, 30 million new users in 2013 on Twitter.
The statistics of this whole thing are just stunning. I mean, I was reading some research on Twitter and reading the history of how it started and where it came from and where it went to, and just the quantity of tweets that happen every minute, every hour of every day. The servers have to be the size of this entire building just to handle all this quick turnover, because it is almost instantaneous. I mean, you tweet something, it's out there.
And it's really interesting to have lived through the growth. I have been on Twitter now, I want to say since probably 2007, so kind of on the early part.
Since Larry the Bird was the logo.
But back in the old days, it was a lot easier to follow conversations and to meet people. I've had wonderful experiences where I've met clients on Twitter. I've met people who became great friends. And today there seems to be a lot more noise. But getting back to your question about the hashtags, that is why people are using several hashtags, is so that they will get noticed. Because there is so much traffic, a lot of times people set up kind of what I call listening sites, but using a dashboard like Hootsuite, and we've mentioned Hootsuite before, you can actually have search terms kind of go through Twitter, and anytime that search term comes up, the tweets will all appear. So getting back to the ACTV example, I can set up a column to kind of search for any mention of ACTV, And anytime it's mentioned, it'll all be served up for me just in one place. So I could very easily follow a conversation and not have to look at the 30 million plus all the old users, their conversations coming. Another way to help with managing those conversations is to use lists. So for example, in the music industry, let's say, maybe there are several folks that you've met over the years that instead of following maybe 100, 200 different Twitter streams, you collect all of those Twitter addresses, put them in a Twitter list, and just take a look at that list. So follow the list, and that list will only include tweets from those 200 musician friends. So that's another way to help to manage it.
Statistically, just to organize and keep it from being just fragmented and looking, like you say, a million different things to try to figure out how to get to the gist of what you wanted to do.
Right. Otherwise, you would just simply go crazy.
Yeah, I can see that.
You've got to have those tools. So we've talked a little bit about, some of the language, the hashtag, the direct message, meaning you literally use the initials DM before your tweet, so it'll kind of go into the direct message category. And then Mark also mentioned the @ symbol, and I want to make sure people are clear with that. You can tweet about anything, and you don't have to use hashtags, you don't have to mention or tag another person. But if you want that person to take notice, or if you just want to call them out so other people can see who you're talking about, you can put the @ symbol prior to their name, and that is called using a mention or tagging. And the other piece that I want to mention is the RT.
The RT.
The RT. Have you used a retweet in Twitter before?
No, I have not.
So with retweeting, a lot of times, let's get back to your email example. We get a great email, maybe there's a story that we want to share with other people, we forward it on. So the RT is kind of the forward of a tweet. So we're actually retweeting. So if you see a tweet that you want to pass on to kind of your followers, you just use the letters R and T in front of the statement, and it will pass that on to all of the people who follow you.
Similar to a share in Facebook.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
very much so.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was key on those couple little pieces of the Twitter language. Now, what I also wanted to mention, Mark, was that Twitter has a lot of uses. Besides causing some consternation because it's so huge now, it actually has some other great things about it. And you can use Twitter for marketing, for customer service. A lot of times you'll see companies that will have several accounts. Maybe they'll have a main company or a main Twitter account for their brand, but they'll also have a customer service account. So I've even had this happen to myself. You have a problem with a company and perhaps you can't reach them, the old way, via phone, and you can start to have a conversation with their customer service Twitter account. And I have found that to be really helpful, and I've had things become resolved just like that because companies are very responsive to what's going on with Twitter.
Keeps the president from getting all the tweets.
That's right. That's right. Twitter also is a great tool for job search and for finding expert sources. So, as you mentioned, it's timely information. And so if you really want to know what's happening with some late breaking news, boy, Twitter's the first place I will go to see what's happening. And as a matter of fact, I thought I would share with you, Mark, since we are at the beginning of 2014, some of the top tweets of the past year.
Well, that's a good recap because here we are in the new year, so.
Yeah, and unfortunately, 2 of the top 3 involved deaths. Oh. And the first one actually was when Glee star Corey Monteith died.
Sure.
And that absolutely was just huge. There were retweets that appeared in over 130 different countries, and let's see if I have some stats on that. The tweet that really kind of went around the globe was the one from his girlfriend, who was also an actress on the show. And she had said in her tweet, "Thank you all for helping me through this time with your enormous love and support. Corey will forever be in my heart." and that was retweeted over 408,000 times.
Wow.
So almost 500,000.
Yeah.
And then the second most popular tweet also was a death, and this was more recently. This was Paul Walker's sudden death in November. And the tweet there, and we'll post this online too so folks can see, but that particular tweet also saw almost 500,000 retweets.
Wow.
And the third one was a tweet from one, you'll appreciate this one of the guys from One Direction, the pop band. And so he tweeted about his birthday. He said, "Yes, I'm 20, wahoo, no more teens." And so that particular tweet it received 375,000 retweets.
So the demographic isn't just all professionals. It's filtered down into the younger generation as well. So
well, and also, you know, Twitter added some new faces to Twitter, meaning got some folks to be first-time Twitter users in 2013, and that includes Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush.
well, good for them.
Yeah, and as well as Joe Montana and Kobe Bryant. And, you know, you may be wondering, well, how do I know if I'm really tweeting to, you know, the real former president or the basketball star? Twitter has a way of, if you're a celebrity or somebody of you know, notoriety,
public figure.
right? Public figure. There's a process that they can go through to have their identity verified, and you will see a little notation on the Twitter account, so you know that you are in fact,
You know for sure.
talking to the real account. Now I say
Yes.
I don't say person, I say account because, you know,
They may have an account manager.
right? Do they have handlers that are
Administrator.
tweeting on behalf, you know,
Yes.
or what? But at least you know that whoever is tweeting, they're all official.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That could be problematic if you're not careful. If you're a celebrity, Nick Clooney, I always use him as an example. You know, if it's not really Nick Clooney's site, it's not Nick Clooney on Facebook. There have been some of those. It's been funny.
Yeah, you know, in a couple, those were, you know, the three that were the highest number of tweets in 2013, but there were some other really notable moments on Twitter. And one of those was when we received news about the new Pope.
Oh.
And so, just for perspective, the tweet about the papal inauguration generated more than 130 tweets per minute.
Wow.
At its peak. That's per minute. So
That's amazing. Now,
Yeah.
the Pope's not tweeting, is he?
actually, the Pope is tweeting.
Good for him.
The Pope is definitely tweeting.
Good for him.
So, you know, all kinds of news, and celebrities are on Twitter. There are businesses on Twitter, people who are using Twitter to connect, to make deals happen, to help promote their businesses, and who are conversing about subjects that are near and dear to their heart, things that they're very passionate about.
Well, and it's so instantaneous. I think the real-time piece of that is now that we're all so mobile with all of our new devices. They're getting smaller and smaller, and now we get them on our phones if we can see that small, or we're using our iPads if we're a little visually challenged. You can get this information right away, and because of that, it becomes a tool for, again, sometimes, especially in business, it's how fast you react to things, and whether you get leads on things, whether you're following information, whether you're meeting new people, that it's just becoming, again, faster and faster and faster, and deeper connections and broad connections, because we're no longer limited to, you know, a telephone, and we're not limited to somebody we can actually see. We can be talking to people all over the world and connecting with them, and so the opportunity and the opportunity for growth and messaging has become just incredible.
Oh yeah, and you know there have been situations where companies have leapt on an opportunity with Twitter. Maybe something's happened, and they've jumped with just the right tweet, and they've gained so much, you know, favor with the community, or even increased business. And then there have been times when a business has kind of said the wrong thing on Twitter, and they've really gotten some incredible
Sure.
backlash.
With some of the hashtag debacles that have gone on with hashtags, maybe intentionally and sometimes not so intentionally, saying things that people took exception to. So there's a lot to this. This is to some degree maybe broader and deeper than Facebook and LinkedIn. Not to talk about older platforms, but some of the newer platforms that are taking place and coming about are becoming more and more popular, i.e. Instagram, etc. That as this whole social network keeps morphing and changing, it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out at the end of the game.
Right, and I think the key is always going to be education. You really need to know what you're doing.
Sure.
And you need to be strategic about the work that you're going to be doing and
Yeah.
what you're going to be incorporating into the program.
Sure.
I wanted to share, one kind of misstep that a company did, and that was after the Boston bombings or the Boston Marathon, there was a company, Epicurious, who tweeted the following. They said, "Boston, our hearts are with you. Here's a bowl of breakfast energy we could all use to start today." And people just really felt that that was not appropriate, that they were kind of capitalizing
Yeah.
on that moment to kind of get a product
Maybe a little
placement
bit
piece
tasteless.
in.
Maybe
Exactly,
just a little
exactly,
bit.
exactly.
Wrong timing to it for a pitch.
Right, right. So something that maybe was innocent on their part ended up being tweeted about for a very long time.
Well, what an amazing platform this one is. I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things on the show and all these new things, and this one has tremendous potential and probably something that we'll continue to elaborate on and talk about. But we always urge everybody, if you have questions, to contact ACTV and get through to us. And Michelle and I would love to hear your input, and if there are topics you would like us to cover, please tweet those to us.
Yes, right.
And don't forget to check out our episodes on YouTube with ACTV. So on behalf of Michelle and myself, we want to thank everybody for tuning in today, episode number 8. We're very excited about that. And our next episode, we're gonna talk about a lot of things. We'll probably recap Twitter, and we'll get on to some other new
Mobile
topics.
apps.
Absolutely, mobile apps. So keep moving around, everybody. We'll catch you wherever you are, and thank you again.